The Galactic Empire laughed when aliens warned them humans were too reckless, too fast, too limitless. They stopped laughing when Earth collapsed a star by accident, then rebuilt it out of spite. They warned the Empire, but the Empire had no ears. Adrian Vale tapped a knuckle on the glass of his command panel as the Osalian envoy's hologram repeated its final plea, voice like silk over ice. If you do not slow expansion, your species will fracture the lattice of causality. We offer this warning not in fear, but in responsibility. He drained the last of his synth brew and let out a long breath through his nose. Always so poetic. These squid monks. Just once I want a straight answer like, stop building suns or everyone dies. Reginald, the ship's AI, materialized beside him with a drink in hand it couldn't drink. Technically, Captain, that's exactly what they just said, just in opera. Adrian leaned back in his chair. Yeah, but they make it sound like our fault the universe didn't come with a manual. The ship's comms lit up again. Directive from the High Senate. Escort the Osalian envoy, same one who just threatened the species with annihilation, on a tour of the frontier colonies. Official purpose, prove humanity isn't dangerous. Unofficial purpose, convince the galactic community humans weren't weaponized ambition with sex appeal. He muttered, great. Babysit the galaxy's most paranoid librarian while my people light up moons for fun. First stop was Eta 9, one of humanity's new pride projects, a world previously declared biologically dead, now teeming with fast-grown cities, sky-slicing trees, and genetically uplifted hummingbirds that debated ethics in midair. Niles Sora was tall, draped in reflective robes, her 4 eyes scanning every molecule like they carried disease. You taught birds to speak moral philosophy? Why? Vale shrugged. Because it was funny. You find warping an ecosystem humorous? No. I find our need to do it hilarious. He stepped past her. You'll get used to the smell of progress. It's mostly ozone and desperation. Her silence was loaded. Osalians didn't yell. They just stared like you were a bug who forgot it was squishable. By the 3rd colony, she'd spoken the same line 6 times. This violates Temporal Regulation 3.7c, biological escalation. Beyond median standard must be rebalanced. Vale cracked open a ration bar and bit down. If you say regulation one more time, I'm going to terraform your mouth shut. Reginald cut in. Captain, I detect a 92% probability your sarcasm is going to result in an interspecies incident. Odds are better than usual, Vale muttered. Then came the incident. Starforge 9, a marvel of engineering powered by quantum-threaded dark energy coils designed to birth an artificial star in under 48 hours. The grand experiment, the Empire's jewel, the Osalian Council's final nerve. Vale and Sora stood on the observation deck as the ignition began. Pulses of raw light shot out in neat spiraling patterns. Then something twisted. The coils buckled. Gravity snapped backward for a heartbeat. Every instrument screamed static. A sun tried to be born but turned inside out. A feedback wave punched a nearby system and vaporized an entire Osalian archive world. The room went silent. Sora turned, slowly. You collapsed a star sideways. That isn't even a direction. Vale didn't look at her. He was staring at the data stream. Lines missing, logs erased. This wasn't an accident. Then what was it? He pointed to a repeating pulse buried deep in the signal. A beacon. Someone wanted this thing to fail. Someone called the instability. The Senate responded with denial. Publicly, they blamed Osalian interference. Privately, they ordered Vale to keep the envoy under control until the heat died down. Sora didn't wait. She confronted him in his cabin, blade drawn. Not to kill, just to promise she could. Was this sabotage? Yes, Vale said. But not by us. Not by our kind of us. She watched him, reading for lies. Nova Dawn? The name tasted like iron. Nova Dawn. Fringe cult. Technological supremacists. True believers that humanity's purpose wasn't peace, it was ascendancy. They want war, Vale said. But not the political kind. They want pressure, catastrophe, enough chaos to force evolution. Sora sheathed her blade. Then, we stop them, Reginald's voice rang out. Might I suggest caution, Captain? You're about to pick a fight with your own species while babysitting an alien diplomat who could file a galaxy-wide restraining order against humanity. Vale stood. Good. That means we're headed in the right direction. They intercepted a faint signal ping on the dark side of Lerna 6, a storm-blasted rock orbiting nothing. There shouldn't have been tech there. There was. A hidden relay station, human-made, broadcasting in the same pattern found at Starforge 9. Vale, Sora, and a 3-bot infiltration squad dropped in under stealth. The station wasn't just active, it was humming. Screens lit with Starforge schematics, maps, targets. One transmission looped on a cracked monitor. Transcendence through fire, salvation through pressure. Humanity must be forced to adapt, or die irrelevant. Sora's face darkened. They mean to collapse the Osalian homeworld, and then build a new sun on its ashes, Vale said. Behind them, a door hissed open. A figure stepped through, half human, half machine, neural wires snaking from skull to spine. Vale's heart cracked. His mentor, Elira Kane, missing for 6 years. She looked at him like a disappointment. You're still joking your way through catastrophe. I like to laugh before the burning starts, he said. What the hell is this? It's the future, Adrian. Not everyone will survive it, but everyone must face it. She raised her hand. The lights turned red. Sora pulled her weapon. Reginald screamed through Vale's ear. Incoming reinforcements. 10, no, 12, heavily armed, 0 sense of humor. Vale fired first. Not at his mentor, at the power coupling behind her. The wall exploded. The relay died. The station rocked. Sora grabbed Vale's collar and hauled him out. As they escaped into orbit, Elira's voice echoed across the comms. You can't stop it, Adrian. You'll either evolve with us, or be left behind as a cautionary tale. Vale didn't respond, not with words. He armed the ship's torpedoes. Reginald asked, Captain, are we making a statement? We're writing a new regulation, Vale said, in blood and bad decisions. And he launched. Adrian Vale hated silence, especially in military briefings, the kind that hung over a room like an unspoken funeral. The Empire's high strategos paced across the projection floor, holograms of the Osalian dead flickering behind him. 10 million wiped out in a blink, lost in a star that tried to be born, but collapsed into madness. The word accident was being passed around like a prayer. Vale didn't buy it. Run the footage again, he said, voice sharp. The engineer hesitated. Sir, the logs, most of them were corrupted. Then show me what's left. They played the ignition sequence. The artificial star bloomed, trembled, then rippled in reverse. Space twisted like a paper fold. A brief pulse shot out. Too brief, too clean. Vale leaned forward. There, pause. Back 5 frames, he pointed. That's not a radiation surge. That's a signal ping. Someone hijacked the coils from inside. The room shifted. Eyes turned. The high strategos narrowed his gaze. Captain Vale, are you suggesting sabotage? I'm not suggesting, Vale said. I'm confirming, and I've seen the pattern before. Nova Dawn left their fingerprints. Someone scoffed. Nova Dawn's a myth. Fringe propaganda. Vale didn't flinch. Then how did that myth leak into a restricted Starforge core? The silence came back, louder than before. He left the chamber with orders to stand down, await reassignment, say nothing to the press. He ignored them before the door shut. Back aboard his ship, Sora stood in the corridor, arms crossed. They don't believe you. They never do until something explodes. Then what's your next move? Find the source of the ping. Trace it. Burn whoever lit the match. Reginald chimed in. Captain, might I remind you that treason is still frowned upon in most systems? Good thing I stopped asking. For permission, Vale muttered. He keyed in the data. The signal had echoed across Lerna 6, a rock nobody cared about. No traffic, no settlements, just enough magnetic interference to hide a rat's nest of secrets. Exactly the kind of place Nova Dawn would love. Vale didn't request clearance. He launched in 12 minutes. The descent into Lerna's atmosphere was violent. Sora braced against the crash webbing, watching static dance across the monitors. Reginald commented dryly, "This planet is either trying to kill us or flirt with us. I can't tell which." "I get that a lot," Vale said as they landed hard enough to knock a stabilizer loose. The surface was a maze of metallic shards and glass planes. No visible life. No transmissions. Until a faint echo began repeating, a coded loop buried deep in the EM noise. Sora tilted her head. "It's the same pattern from Star Forge 9. Vale checked the signal triangulation. "Coming from below. Underground structure, maybe a relay station." They trekked across the terrain, guided by Reginald's narrowed scans. Eventually, a hatch revealed itself beneath a collapsed ridge, not locked, not hidden, almost waiting. The facility inside was old. Human architecture fused with newer tech. Lines of code still ran across the displays. Blueprints for energy conversion, tachyon manipulation, Starforge schematics. Sora tapped one display. "They planned this." Vale stepped closer. "They're planning more." He flipped through files, until he found something worse than data. A broadcast message looping, a manifesto. "Humanity has grown soft in peace. We stagnate in comfort. Evolution demands pain, pressure, collapse. We are the knife." Sora exhaled slowly. "They intend to recreate the event. Again." He opened the targeting data, his jaw locked. "Osalian homeworld. They're aiming to trigger a reaction chain through the lattice. Burn it from inside the singularity." "And the Empire allows this?" "No," Vale said. "But they don't see it. Not yet." From the shadows, a door hissed open. Steps echoed. Vale turned. A woman stepped into the dim light. One eye cybernetic, body laced with interface ports. Her face was burned into his memory. Illyra. His mentor didn't smile. "I hoped it would be you." He took a step forward, stunned. "You're alive?" "In a fashion. The body still breathes. The mind has moved on." Sora moved between them. "You led this?" "I unlocked it," Illyra said calmly. "The truth. Humanity is not destined to be caretakers. We are catalysts, builders of collapse, architects of rebirth. The galaxy needs us to tear it open. Only through fire will we grow." Vale stared. "You killed 10 million. I revealed the truth. Their deaths will save billions. He raised his weapon. "You're insane." She didn't flinch. "You're afraid." "I'm disgusted." Sora glanced at Vale. "We end this now." "No." Vale lowered his gun. "We take the data. We expose them." Illyra tilted her head. "You still believe exposure matters? They'll erase the files before your ship leaves orbit." Vale turned to Reginald. "Back up the system. Transmit a packet to all Imperial channels. Blind drop." Reginald replied, "Done," with dramatic flourish. Illyra sighed. "Then I suppose this ends as it must." The lights shut off. The station roared to life. Lockdown protocols engaged. Sora drew her blade. "Combat units inbound. Multiple. Moving fast." Vale activated the blast charge. On his belt. "We're not fighting them. We're collapsing the structure." He slapped the charge to the relay's core. The system screamed in protest. Elira's voice rang out one last time. "You'll regret this." "I usually do," Vale muttered, grabbing Sora's arm and sprinting for the exit. They burst out seconds before the relay exploded, a plume of fire and data fragments chasing them into the sky. Reginald opened the hatch. "Welcome back. Did we make friends?" Vale collapsed into his chair. "No, but we made an enemy notice we're still breathing." Sora stared at the flame-wrecked horizon. "This war is already moving. You can't stop it." "No," Vale said, "but I can aim it." He watched the smoke curl into the stars and knew exactly where to go next. The ship's hull groaned as it punched through the edge of Ossalian territory, scraping against classified space like a thief in the dark. Vale leaned forward, elbows, on the console, watching the encrypted transmission decrypt itself layer by layer. The Nova Dawn's attack plan was no longer a theory. It was a schedule. "We have 5 days," he said quietly. 5 days before they light the Ossalian core like a match head," Reginald responded flatly. "That would be unfortunate. The last time we ignited a star, the complaint box overflowed." Sora crossed her arms. "Then we take the Warforge. Out before it fires." "It's not a Warforge. Not anymore," Vale replied. "They've converted it. It's a mobile tachyon cannon strapped to a singularity. They're calling it Ascension." "Poetic." "Dangerous," he corrected. "It's more than a weapon. It's a philosophy with teeth." He loaded the coordinates. The ship jumped to a dead region in space, a ghost belt of shattered planets and radiation ghosts. In the center, the Warforge drifted like a god's coffin, massive, angular, bristling with energy and silence. Around it moved the Nova Dawn, fleet, organized, precise, ready. "I'm going in," Vale said. "You're one man," Sora snapped. "You can't dismantle a cult in a fortress armed with extinction." "No, but I can slow them down, maybe enough for the Ossalians to strike, before they fire." She hesitated. "And me?" "You stay with the ship. If I fail, you get the data out." "I don't like plans with martyrdom baked in." "Neither do I. That's why I'm going to improvise." He docked at the outer ring. No alarms. The system recognized his credentials. Vale's name still carried weight among the wrong people. Inside, the corridors pulsed with soft blue light. The walls were humming. Artificial gravity shifted slightly. Proof the core reactor was already spinning. Up, he reached the command deck, undisturbed. A voice greeted him before he could speak. "You always were stubborn," Elira said, stepping from the shadows. "But I didn't expect suicidal." "I figured you'd appreciate the dedication." "I appreciate the irony. You're here to stop the one project built off your own research. I never designed weapons. You designed possibilities. We simply expanded on them." He looked past her. The main control node sat exposed, rotating slowly in a gravity-locked chamber. One direct overload, and the entire ship would seize up. "You know I can't let you fire it." "I know you think you can stop me." "I'm not here to think." He moved. She moved faster. Her cybernetics kicked in, arm flashing with embedded plasma. He ducked, rolled, countered with a shock knife, slicing sparks from her shoulder. She hissed, spun, drove him back with precision strikes. "You taught me this," she said between blows. "I was a terrible teacher." "You were afraid of what? We could become?" "No," he said, catching her wrist and twisting. "I was afraid of what people like you would do with it." They crashed into the reactor controls. Alarms wailed. She broke free, struck him hard across the jaw, then staggered when his boot found her ribs. He didn't hesitate. Vaulted over her, slammed the emergency override, keyed in a manual lockdown. She screamed, lunged, and missed by inches. The chamber sealed. The countdown froze. The cannon's charge dissipated like wind. Outside, the Nova Dawn fleet turned sharply, confused, angry, reacting to a plan that just crumbled. Reginald's voice crackled through a wrist link. "Captain, Ossalian ships have arrived. Very sharp. very pointy. Vale grinned through bloodied teeth. Perfect timing. Elira rose unsteadily. You think this ends with you? With today? No, he said, but it won't start with you either. She stepped forward, wounded, but still burning with purpose. You've delayed evolution. That's all. Maybe. But delaying the apocalypse is a good day's work. She swung again. He didn't dodge. He absorbed the hit, staggered back, then jabbed a stun spike directly into her spine. She dropped. The lights dimmed. The system powered down. The Warforge drifted. Sora's voice came through next. Fleet standing down. We got the data to the Empire. Public, global. Good. Hold your fire. If they retreat, let them go. You're feeling merciful? No. I'm feeling tactical. Let them stew in defeat. The Australians didn't. Fire. The Nova Dawn scattered. The cannon never launched. A war never began. Vale sat in the wreckage of the command deck, watching lights flicker around him. Reginald chimed in. Shall I prep a monologue for the history books? Just start. The engines, he muttered. We've got somewhere else to be. Back to the Empire? He shook his head. Back to the beginning. Behind him, Elira stirred, groaning. He glanced down. When you wake up, remember this. Evolution's not about force. It's about choice. She didn't respond. He didn't. Wait. He walked out with blood on his knuckles, fire behind his eyes, and a galaxy watching every step. Adrian Vale stood in front of the Empire's War Council with blood on his coat and betrayal tightening around his throat. They weren't looking at him like a hero. They were looking at him like a variable, one they'd failed to control. The High Strategos' voice cut through the chamber like a scalpel. Explain how you shut down a classified Nova Dawn installation, without Imperial oversight. Vale didn't blink. Because you weren't overseeing it. You were ignoring it. You're accusing the Empire of conspiracy? I'm accusing you of negligence at best, complicity at worst. There were no murmurs, no gasps, just silence so sharp it sounded like waiting. The emissary general folded her hands. Captain Vale, your actions nearly destabilized half a sector. You breached borders, violated diplomatic protocol, and assaulted a former Imperial scientist. She tried to ignite a planetary core. I considered that a hostile action. Your opinion wasn't requested. Neither was your permission. The room tensed. Vale felt it closing, subtle and measured. They weren't going to charge him. They were going to erase him. Quietly. A medical reassignment. An unfortunate incident. A funeral without a name. He smiled, which only made them more nervous. I already leaked the data, he said. Starforge schematics, targeting logs, transmission proofs. 10,000 copies, tied to heartbeat-locked triggers. I die. They go public. Whole galaxy sees what you greenlit. The Strategos stood abruptly. You think you're protecting humanity? No, Vale said. I'm protecting the truth. Humanity can survive shame. It can't survive extinction-level hubris. They dismissed him without answering. That was fine. He wasn't asking for dialogue. Outside the chamber, Sora waited, leaning against the rail, arms folded. How long before they try to kill you? Clock's already ticking. You could disappear. He shook his head. We both know what happens if I vanish. They spin you into a madman. Exactly. That's why I'm staying in the light. Sora studied him. You want to keep fighting. I want to make sure no one else builds another ascension. Cannon and points it at a civilization because they think fire makes things better. Fire purifies, she said softly. Fire forgets what it burns. They returned to the ship. Reginald was already waiting, his voice more sardonic than usual. Captain, might I suggest a vacation? Perhaps a nice asteroid spa. Something with less existential doom. Vale dropped into his seat. Plot a course to Drenel Station. That's a war front. Exactly. Nova Dawn remnants are regrouping there. We cut the head off the beast. Now we handle the body. Sora raised an eyebrow. This isn't your war anymore. It was never mine. It just won't leave me alone. The ship slipped into warp. Vale stared at the stream of stars blurring past, thinking about how everything always came back to the same point. Humans push. The galaxy resists. Sometimes it breaks. Drenel was chaos when they arrived. Imperial cleanup crews battled hidden. Dawn cells embedded in the infrastructure. Civilians were fleeing. Half the port was on fire. Vale didn't wait. He landed mid-zone, boots hitting the ground before clearance was granted. Nova Dawn wasn't hiding. They were transmitting. A voice blared through the comm channels, familiar, charismatic, poisonous. This is not the end. This is the beginning of choice. Let the weak retreat. The future is forged by pressure, not permission. Elira again. Alive, still pushing her message like a virus across bandwidths. Vale turned to Sora. She escaped the Warforge. I should have confirmed it. You were busy not dying. He activated his uplink, tying into the Nova Dawn frequency. Elira, you're out of cards, she responded instantly, voice like static and steel. Adrian, still clinging to your morality like it's armor. It's not armor, it's a reminder. That you're obsolete? That I'm not. A silence. Then she spoke again, quieter. Come find me. End it properly. The transmission cut. Vale didn't hesitate. He tracked the signal to the underbelly of the station, twisted metal corridors, flickering lights, bodies, some alive, some not, lay scattered. Nova Dawn hadn't come to win. They came to bleed. Elira was waiting in the reactor chamber, pale, thin, eyes alight with belief. You still don't understand, she said. I do. That's the problem. You think chaos is evil. It's just truth. Evolution wrapped in suffering. You keep calling it evolution like it excuses murder. She stepped closer. We could have been gods, Adrian. We still can be, he said, lifting his sidearm. But not your kind. She laughed, almost sadly. Then do it. I already did. Reginald's voice cracked in. Transmission beacon scrubbed. External servers disabled. She's cut off. Elira's face changed. Hope collapsed into clarity. You turned me into a ghost. No, I let you bury yourself. He fired. One shot. Clean. No hesitation. Outside, Sora was waiting. It's done? She asked. No, he said. But the noise stopped. Back aboard the ship, the sky opened ahead. A galaxy of broken treaties, fragile peace, and 1,000 mistakes. Sora sat beside him. What now? He looked forward, not at her. Now we make sure no one like us ever gets that close again. Us? Humans who forget they're human. Reginald broke the moment. Captain, your approval ratings are down 70%. Perfect, Vale said. Means I'm doing something right. And they flew on, not toward safety, but toward whatever came next. Because the only way to stop the fire was to stand in it and choose not to become the flame. The broadcast went out an hour after the last shot fired. No logos, no anthem, just static. Then Vale's voice, calm and unfiltered. If you're hearing this, it means we stopped them, or tried, or died trying. I'm not here to make speeches. I'm here to tell the truth while I still can. The Empire hadn't responded yet. They were still deciding whether to frame him as a traitor or a savior. The Osalian Collective had already sent word. Formal recognition of his actions, gratitude delivered in diplomatic phrasing so cold it could freeze time. He didn't care about either. Sora watched the stars from the viewport. You think they'll come after you? They already are, Vale said, but they'll have to wait in line. Empire? Dawn loyalists? Or the Osalians? Everyone. I humiliated every side. That tends to upset gods and politicians. You're not hiding. No point. The truth's out now. They'll burn a dozen stories trying to bury it, but someone will remember. Reginald piped in, unusually quiet. You've triggered 4 assassination protocols, 2 legal inquiries, and 1 marriage proposal. Shall I prioritize? Leave the proposal on red. He walked to the tactical console. Red dots marked the remaining Dawn strongholds. Most were silent. A few pulsed weakly, like dying embers clinging to warmth. Vale pointed to the one nearest, the Ember Expanse. This one matters? It's half a planet, Sora said. Not a base. It's their fallback site. Logistics, data vaults, leadership fragments. We finish it, the rest scatter. Reginald cross-referenced the location. Fortified. Heavily. Even without Elira, they've gone full zealot. Perfect. Makes it easier to see them. He didn't wait for votes. He keyed in the burn. The ship surged forward, eating stars like candy. He didn't look at Sora. He knew she'd follow. She always did. They landed hours later, deep inside. The Expanse, surrounded by volcanic chasms and atmospheric noise thick enough to melt radar. Perfect cover for a cult expecting to vanish. Vale went in alone. Sora didn't argue. She handed him a stun lance, tight grip, and no words. That was all he needed. Inside, the last of Nova Dawn waited. A man stepped forward, younger than Vale expected, eyes wired with ambition. You're late. Vale didn't answer. You dismantled everything, but we're still here. I see. That. You can't stop what's already begun. Ascension isn't a device, it's an awakening. I'm not here to debate ideology. Then why come alone? Vale raised the lance. To make sure there's no one left to give a speech. They lunged. The fight was fast, brutal, no pretense, no theatrics, just muscle, instinct, and rage. Vale knocked the younger man down hard, then drove the butt of the lance into the control core at the center of the chamber. Sparks flew. Data bled out. Another stepped forward, then another. They didn't beg. They didn't explain. They fought like believers. That was worse. He fought until his arm went numb, fought until his knees buckled, fought until the last one dropped. Then he stood in the middle of what had once been a movement, breathing hard and bleeding slow. Sora's voice came through the comms. Status. Finished. All of them? Yes. You're bleeding. I'm always bleeding. He burned the data vaults. Every file, every algorithm, every trace of doctrine. No more dawn, just dust. Back on the ship, he collapsed into the chair. Sora brought him water and silence. He took both. She finally asked, What now? There's no now, Vale said. Not for me. You want to disappear? I want them to forget. They won't. He nodded slowly. Then I'll keep going until they do. She reached for his hand. Not alone. No, he said, but not as a hero either. You were never trying to be. Reginald spoke, gentle for once. Incoming transmission from Imperial High Command. Encrypted. Curious tone. Decline, Vale said. Message attached. Shall I read it? Go ahead. Reginald paused, then recited. Captain Vale, by order of the Senate, you are hereby exiled from Central Systems. You are also posthumously commended for actions preventing galactic destabilization. Do not return. Vale smirked. Dead and thanked in one sentence. Efficient. Sora didn't smile. What do we do now? We keep flying. Where? He looked out at the endless dark, at stars waiting to be defied. Toward anything that looks like trouble, she nodded. That's what I thought. Reginald brought up the star map, highlighting active anomalies, unstable zones, forgotten outposts. Vale pointed randomly. That one. Danger level, absurd. Potential impact, unpredictable. Exactly my type. As the ship turned, the comms lit up again. Civilian channels this time, people talking, arguing, asking questions the Empire had no answers for. Vale leaned back, eyes heavy. "You hear that?" he murmured. Sora listened. "They're waking up." He closed his eyes. Good. Maybe now they'll stop letting others tell them who to become. And the ship vanished into the stars, not as an escape, but as a reminder. Not all fire destroys. Some just refuses to die.